You've probably never heard of this bike before. It's an enduro bike with a high pivot, mullet wheels, a gearbox, made of Reynolds steel, and my personal favorite is that it's made right here in Canada. This is the 𝙎𝙬𝙨𝙖𝙣𝙍𝙬 AC1, a bike that has yet to be officially released. To say it checks off a few boxes would be a bit of an understatement. But just because something looks good on paper doesn't necessarily mean that that will translate to on-trail performance. Thankfully, after drooling over the details at the first 5er of the season, Alex, the founder and lead engineer behind 𝙎𝙬𝙨𝙖𝙣𝙍, invited me out for a test ride to see how a super bike like this would perform. If you have any questions about the AC1, Archibald cycles, gearboxes, or would just like to see more of the AC1 on the channel in the future, leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to get back to them. Now let's see what all the fuss is about.
Alright, riding the AC1. We're going to start it off with some technical goodness on CVC, which is now open. Yeah, it's immediately noticeable how supple the rear end is. Like it's very, very, very light. Yeah, if you weren't immediately familiar with how a high pivot feels, it genuinely does feel like you have a flat tire. Which is very, very impressive. It is pretty impressive just how active the rear wheel is.
Yeah.
More so than my current bike, which is saying something. Woo! Wide. Oh, yeah. Yeah, geometry-wise, this thing is very, very, very intuitive. And it's pretty similar to my current bike, but definitely a little bit steeper seat tube angle, which is super nice on the climb. And a little bit slacker head tube angle, which for descending, I mean, certainly can't complain. It's actually probably pretty similar to my up forked black bike. So yeah, getting along with it very well. Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, hey. If there's anything that's like a punchy climb, as long as
Yeah.
you know that like I can shift while I'm coasting.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're coasting like through a rough chundery section,
Yeah.
you can dump 2 gears if you see like a climb coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like by the time you get to the climb, the gear's ready.
Geometry alone kind of paints a picture of what you want this bike to do, and
Yeah.
for that,
Yeah.
makes
Thing
sense.
is-
Wow, that feels really, really, really good on like a heavy bottom out situation. And here, I feel less guilty because I don't have a derailleur hanging off. Took a little bit of thought there, but took it off a decent number of like plop drops with good compressions and didn't feel bottom at all anywhere.
Fantastic.
Felt very, very controlled and didn't ramp too heavily near the end of the travel, like you're hitting some sort of wall.
Yeah, it's a very linear, it's very progressive, but it's very linear.
Yeah.
Right, so it follows a very straight curve.
Yeah.
It has a very slight additional ramp at the end, but it's quite slight. It also is slightly shallower at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it gives you like slightly more plushness off the top.
Right.
Which you kind of only really see when you're like bouncing over things and the wheel actually gets
like fully topped
extended.
out. Yeah.
And then you just don't feel anything in that range. It's very coil oriented.
Which is fine. I mean, that is what the bike is for anyway. So that spec choice makes sense.
Yeah, gives us control of what we're doing. So.
Ooh, new trail. Nice. Wow. Thanks, Martin. Wow, that's a tight corner.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, rear wheel definitely glued to the train quite well. Definitely takes a little bit of getting used to the whole gearbox mentality, but outside of a pure race environment where you're just, sprinting for your life, it's completely usable. And there are definitely some advantages to it, like being able to shift without pedaling at all. Pretty nice. Definitely handles Jank very well, with your feet being isolated from kickback. Don't really need to worry about line choice all that much, which is super nice. Let's try something a little bit faster. Wow, it is very, very, very loose. I think it'll go. I've only gotten this on an XC bike, but I think this bike is a good candidate.
That's pretty awesome if you could do that on that bike.
That is quite a move. But I just feel really good about it because there's like tons of clearance. You can tell it's a heavy bike, but it's still able to grip enough to do that. Because that's the key, is like if you can get grip on sections where you put the power down, it's not that bad. That'll work. This is a very good example of how good the clearance is.
Yeah.
Because I just don't even feel close, and this is an absolutely ridiculous angle. Wow, so that's a section where it really shines, where it's like fast and rough, and your feet don't feel like they get bucked off at all. Just super steady, composed, and very, very impressive. And although the weight on paper is not insignificant, going through a flowy section like that, it feels remarkably similar, if not a bit lighter on its feet than my main setup. So weight is certainly not everything. It's definitely where the weight is. And I think as this is built, the wheel set being light makes quite a big difference on ride kinematics. Impressive that you can notice it.
Anytime there's an optional double
Yeah.
that sometimes you don't consider hitting,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
Gives you the confidence to just point and shoot.
it encourages you to do it.
Every time I ride stuff, I go, never really thought about like doubling that,
Yeah.
but I'm not concerned about the landing because it'll just take it.
All right, Pingu. Pingu is a good test of how a bike does on fast stuff. So this section, for example, you can basically no brake it, and then you, whoa, that was a little fast. And ride the catch berm at the bottom. So that was very good. That was very composed to the point where I was actually going faster than I feel I usually do. And up here we have some jumps. Some of them you have to pedal for, and it's nice to pedal this bike at speed because it doesn't sink into the travel. So this section is a good example. So right here I would shift down a few times, not pedaling, and then I'm in the right gear to go for this sprint climb, or sorry, sprint gap. That's the trail I expected it to excel quite well on.
Yeah.
And it did. That entrance chute with like that A-frame, that was the farthest I've gone off that A-frame.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was gonna happen. I didn't think I was going that fast.
Yeah. It's
But-
deceiving, eh?
It is very deceiving.
Like you carry speed. That's again, I think, with the doubling things.
Yeah,
You carry speed that you normally don't.
yeah,
And suddenly you can take off of things where you're like, huh,
yeah,
I cleared that and
yeah.
not normally. So
And it's extra impressive because I'm not used to this bike or the
ride on.
component specs, and I'm carrying speed that I haven't in places I know very well.
yeah, and bikes you're comfortable on.
I also don't feel nervous riding Skinnies because I'm not going to break anything,
Yeah.
which is pretty great.
Yeah, you can come off and nothing's gonna get hurt.
Bars are a bit wide for that pull. Ew. Super confidence inspiring. Like as a descending bike, it's fantastic. And here I can shift mid skinny without pedaling. It's like this is down, down, up, 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 up. And now I'm in the hardest gear. Now I don't want to be in the hardest gear. I just do that, and now I'm in the climb gear. It's pretty great. It definitely takes some getting used to, but once you're used to it, especially on this F gear gearbox where you can upshift and pedal under load to some extent, it's not that many disadvantages. What do you think? Should I take a look into gearbox bikes a bit more? So this is where it's really helpful. I can coast on the skinny, downshift without pedaling, and then I'm ready for the uphill. Oh, assuming I picked the right gear. Well, never ridden that fast. Oh boy. Whenever I do point of view videos like this, I don't think people truly understand what it is that we just did. Because unless you live here, it's really hard to convey that on video. Always a good scientific test. Nice? Yeah, felt totally controlled. Oh. Yeah, I don't know about that today. Ooh. Good, feels like a downhill bike. I could see that being a main bike. It's very capable, it pedals well. It's very, very intuitive, which is impressive, and not a lot of bikes are quite that intuitive. Yeah, it's interesting.
So there you have it, my first ride experiences on the 𝙎𝙬𝙖𝙣𝙍𝙬𝙀 AC1. All in all, a pretty phenomenal platform, and if you value descending capability, this should be on your shortlist come the end of the year. So thanks again to Alex from 𝙎𝙬𝙖𝙣𝙍𝙬𝙀 for letting me test ride this prototype. So what do you think? Should I get one?